You can find candidates. You can put an ad in Indeed. You can put an ad in ZipRecruiter. You're going to get a lot of bodies. But in this very competitive world, it's one thing to get a candidate, and there's another thing to get the candidate over the altar, started and employed with your firm.
Welcome back to Talent Hunters, powered by MRI Network, where each week we talk with the world's top talent strategists and executive recruiters. If you want to build talented teams that drive your company to big goals and big growth, then this podcast is for you. And now, let's join the conversation with today's episode of Talent Hunters.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here today with Mark Angott, owner of Angott Search Group located in Rochester, Michigan. And from my heart, I've got to say, Mark, that you are one of 5 people that I hold as legendary status in this organization. And it's really a tight group. Obviously, the guy that hired me, Jim Dykman. From there, it's Alan Schoenberg, Gary Williams, and Gary Miller, and you.
Well, thanks, Vince. That's high company. I don't know if legendary means old, but I really appreciate the kind words.
Well, I kind of like your hair color, but
yeah, I know. See, exactly.
So, Mark, 43 years in this business. You've been teaching us all by example how to persevere and grow in whatever the economy is. What motivates you today?
Well, what motivates me, and it's a little different now, Vince, than it was years ago when I was running a desk and running a pretty big office. That's different, right? And there's a lot of challenges in doing both of those and trying to do both of those well. Now, what motivates me is building our team to be successful and helping JT and Stephanie and the rest of our senior leaders to manage and build the business. So it's really changed for me, but that's what gets me excited. I still get excited about building and bringing in some key relationships for the firm because, as you said, 43 years in the business, you do develop a lot of deep relationships with clients, even though unfortunately some of those are dying off, over the years. But what really gets me excited now is building our teams out and then taking our team and hopefully bringing everybody up to a different level. And that's where I can add my expertise.
So that's what motivates you Monday morning after a weekend to still come into the office and work with your people and so forth. What would you like client companies to know about your organization deep inside?
That to me, that's driven by our core values, which start with honesty, integrity, professionalism, and taking your clients and treat them like you'd want to be treated. I mean, I try to tell our clients, look, we want to be an extension of your HR department. We're out on the street. We're telling your story. We're trying to bring you top talent. But it starts with really core ethics and core values and doing the right thing. I mean, think to yourself at all times, I want to do the right thing for our team, but mostly for our clients. Because if you do the right thing for your clients, the right thing may be pulling a candidate, Vince. It might be you get to the end of the line and you don't feel good about the candidate. The candidate's not giving you the right kind of responses. Maybe you got a bad reference, but it takes guts. Then you got to say to your client, you know what? I don't feel good about this candidate. Let's go get another candidate. You might have to start the search over. But when you do the right thing for your clients, it's going to benefit you in the long run. And you'll reap the rewards of that. It might be doing a freebie for a client. It might be, I've had situations where the clients had somebody on their own and I've offered to do the references for them, because we do them very professionally. Anything, it reaps rewards to do the right thing that you'd say to your client, boy, they really acted in my best behalf. What goes around comes around.
God, that's just profound.
Same with candidates. You might help a candidate negotiate a deal that he's getting on his own. You know what? They will remember you for that. And they might call you back 2-3 years later and say, you know what? You helped me out. And hey, by the way, this and that, and, might lead to a new job order or a new relationship, because our business is all about relationships, isn't it? It's how you build your practice. It's all about relationships. And that's what we try to preach.
Now, do you work retained? Do you work contingent? How do you work?
Great question, because 40 some years ago when I started, we didn't know anything but contingency. And that's how we grew up in the MRI family. That's how we were taught, going back to the Alan Schoenberg days and the Lou Scott days and all the above, and Gary Williams. It was contingency. And then that changed over the years as we've seen so many of our stars in our business start going to more of a retained model. In our firm now, and we're going to do approximately, we did about 4 million last year. It'll be about 4 million this year. If you said, what's the split now? It's probably 40% contingency. It's probably 40%, maybe 45%, what we'll call engaged, where there's some skin in the game. You know, it might only be a $5,000 retainer, but there's some skin in the game with the balance on completion. And then there's maybe 10 to 15%, which is true retained third. Some of the true C-level searches, we do go third. But that's probably our split in our office. Yet there's a few people that still do all contingency, Vince, and they're good at it, and that's their comfort zone. But, you know, I'd say there's a number of our senior people are kind of learning that to try to get skin in the game if they can.
That's good. What do your people control that as far as whether there's going to be a contingent or if it's going to be skin in the game?
Yes and no. We have a very team-oriented approach. So I'm available at any time. JT is available at any time. We have a number of, I'm blessed, Vince. We have so many people that have 20 plus years of experience here in our firm that we have a lot of experience. So if somebody wants a sounding board, they can get it. But yes, they may ask how to do it, or can I help, or can somebody help? But yeah, we leave it up to them. They run their own practice. We'll certainly give them some recommendations, some helpful hints. And then there's a number of our team that you don't need to tell them, they're going to sell it engaged, because that's what they do. But that was a learning curve over the years. I mean, we've heard from a lot of people in our family. We've listened and taught and watched, a lot of training on how to take those contingency relationships to engaged.
So what do you feel, because there's such a difference between the three stages of getting paid? What do you teach your people, or how do you teach your people where to trust clients in regards to whether or not they should work 100% contingent or engaged? Or
that's a great question, because if you do contingency, sometimes it's live and learn, right? You learn over the years. You work a contingency search, you worked your butt off, and it went away. They hired on their own. They hired through another recruiter. You didn't ask the right questions, and you put a lot of effort into it. And if you do that long enough, you find out, I'm not doing that anymore. So you ask a lot tougher qualifying questions. Not saying we won't do contingency, because I said there's still a big bunch here that will do it. And there is a time and place for contingency. You just have to balance your workload out. Do you want to put as much time into a contingency search as you are doing an engaged search? No, because engaged search means they're for real, right? They're skin in the game. They're probably not using anybody else. And they're committed. And it makes a big difference when you review your job orders each week and where you're going to spend your valuable time. Boy, an engaged search or a fully retained search, they go right to the top of the list. And the contingency searches fill in where you believe you might get some return on your investment. But that's how you have to look at your practices. What's your return on investment on your time? Your time is your money.
Yeah, we've always stayed contingent. And most of that is because when I got out of the retail world 38 years ago, I didn't want to work for anybody else. And so when I was, whether it was engaged or whatever, I felt I owed them and I had to work for them. And what I found is the other side, that they chose to take me for granted too many times. I wanted the opportunity to be able to walk away.
Sure.
And you can still do that in engaged and so forth, because you can always refund the money.
Right.
And so I think it's 6 and 1 and a half a dozen the other. What does a candidate, Mark, what does a candidate have to do to earn your people's trust to want to work with them, market them, to spend the time with them? What does a candidate specifically have to do?
I think it's about commitment in valuing the time and believe that there's a professional relationship here, that we're investing time in him or her, and we expect some courtesy. We expect some honesty. Again, that's integrity. As you know, you get to some people and you start talking about their expectations or their compensation, and they dodge every question you give them. Well, then that's not the commitment we need. We need to have a relationship that they know that we're working on their behalf. We're also working on the client's behalf. But our goal is for the perfect marriage. But we need to get a commitment from them that they're going to follow through, and they're going to treat us with their, in the same as we'd want to be treated. And I think it's really critical that you're working with those type of candidates.
That's a common theme with you. Treat others as you want to be treated.
Exactly.
Beautiful. Now, over the years, Mark, the thing that is just amazing, well, there's a few things that have amazed me about your organization. One is you're not a roller coaster. You don't have peaks and valleys. 1 year, 4 million, the next year, 1 million, or something like that. What lends itself to that consistency when the economy hasn't been consistent over the last 10 years? What leads your office to stay so consistent even though the economy's bouncing around?
Well, we're a little bit fortunate in that regard, Vince. So we do have multiple practices here, even though out of the 20, let's say we have 20 people, a couple more than that are active on the desk, okay? We're a little bit fortunate that probably 2/3 of our practice is financial services, and that tends to be a little bit economy. Well, it's not so dependent on the economy, because we even remember in 08 and 09, we were here and it was the worst times of our life, correct? I mean, we have an automotive practice. Yeah, they were dying in those years. We have a couple of guys that do legal. They were doing okay in those years because there's still legal ramifications. You can do a little bit there. But our financial services, certain parts of it there wasn't any business. But at that time, banks and credit unions were hiring workout officers because the economy had tanked, and they were hiring mortgage people because the mortgage business was still good. So we survived. Whereas if we would have just been all automotive based because we're in Michigan, we probably would almost had to shut down. I mean, it was almost dead, zero. So there was a handful of our team that was just dying, but there were some others of us that were getting by. I mean, our revenues dropped significantly in those years, but enough that we could survive, and pay our team. So it was very trying, but we are fairly diverse, and that helps, especially in trying times like that.
You've always had leaders on your team. I mean, I go back to the Jill Small days. I mean, today, yeah. Megan. I mean, these are people that I revere out there as truly knowing and understanding and believing in what we do. How do you find them?
Well, that's a great question, because we have been very blessed with the tenure here. I mean, Megan, 25 years, Don's 25 years, Quentin's 25 years, JT's 20, Charlie's 20, and the list goes on and on. We've been very fortunate. People get along well. Culture is critical. I mean, we really have a great team atmosphere. People try to help each other out. And we have had a lot of success. We've been very fortunate in the last 3, 4, 5 people we've hired to hire people with experience in the industry. And that's what we prefer to do. And maybe it's luck. Maybe it's because we do have a successful firm and we've won Best Place to Work for 12 years in a row. And people look at that and they look at our website and say, wow, look at the tenure. They must have something going. And we're, in a way, lucky, in a way, blessed. But all that adds up that if we can get to somebody and talk to them, we believe we can tell a pretty good story. So the last number of people we've hired have had experience in the industry, which is a little unique because I know I go back, as you do, a long time. And we used to always train and hire people that we thought could be good because they had the skill set, but not in our industry. And we've kind of taken a different approach, but it's worked for us.
Hey, as long as it works, it's magic.
Yeah, well, then we know they know what they're getting into, because this is a hard business to start. There's no magical formula. You know, you got to be out there making a lot of contacts. It's going to take a while to build up your data, you know, in your base, in your business, in your relationships, and it's not going to happen overnight. You got to work your butt off. At least if we hire people in the industry, they know that. They know what they're getting into.
That's
so
great.
That helps.
I mean, it's sales, and I stand by an old story that I made up. Frankly, every living human being was a born salesperson. And I get everybody wanting to argue it, but every single human being is a born salesperson. Why do I know that? Because as soon as they could talk, they were trying to sell their parents on allowing them to do something different than the parents were telling them to do.
There you go.
Now, some people chose to be salespeople. Some people chose to be engineers, bankers, whatever. But the reality is this business is sales. And I defy anybody to say they don't know anything about sales because they grew up doing it.
There you go. Yeah, you're right.
I love this conversation we're having because you grew up before fax machines. You grew up before computers and everything. You heard the stories that, recruiting business is going away because everybody can fax their resume. Oh, the recruiting business is going away because the computers are going to make it easy for them all to contact directly. What has
going away because of LinkedIn? It's going away because of the internet, correct?
Exactly.
It's going away because corporate internal hiring teams are going to take over the world, right?
Exactly. So
I've heard them all.
Every time you hear that story, because we're going to continue to hear it forever, what is it that you dig your heels in to maintain doing what we do to stay successful?
You know, the message to me and the message we need to sell to our clients is, look, you can find candidates. You can put an ad in Indeed. You can put an ad in ZipRecruiter. You're going to get a lot of bodies. And you can get some candidates. And yes, you could fill some positions on your own. But in this very competitive world, it's one thing to get a candidate. And there's another thing to get the candidate over the altar, started and employed with your firm. And that's what we specialize in. And also, we're going to get you a different slate of candidates than you're going to get on your own. I mean, yes, you're going to find some, and you may find that needle in a haystack, and you may get lucky. And we all know that does happen with a good internal recruiter. However, it's very difficult in a competitive world, if you get a great candidate, to get that person on board. That's our art, and that's what we should be good at, is making sure that we can get a candidate and we can get them over the finish line. Because we all know how unrealistic some either the candidate could be or the client could be. Compensation could be way off. Expectations could be way off. And if they're talking direct, a lot of things could be missed in the process. And we know that because we've been doing it so long. And that's the value we perceive. It's not just finding a candidate. It's getting the candidate on board, started, and employed. That's the difference. That will never go away. You can find candidates on LinkedIn. We all use LinkedIn. You can find candidates through those job boards, but getting them on board, that's a different story. So they could beat their heads against the wall on that.
But what differentiates you from all the other recruiters out there that profess to do what you do?
Well, hopefully, if you're good at what you're doing in this business, it's about building a relationship. And it's about going the extra mile, as I said earlier, for your clients, that they know you're not just a recruiter, you're their trusted advisor. And I've used the analogy that if you're a CEO of a company, that you probably have an attorney you need to use when you have a legal problem. You have your accountant, because he's going to put together your financials. You should have your trusted advisor in search when you have a key need. And it's no difference. They need to call certain professionals when they have that need. And that's how you need to get to your clients. You need to build up that relationship over the years, that's their first call they make. Somebody walks in, it's one of their key people, and resigns, or something happens, or hit by a bus. And they say, you know what, make the call. It's Angott Search Group, and you're going to talk to Mark, you're going to talk to Megan, you're going to talk to Charlie, you're going to talk to Quinn. It doesn't matter. That's my person. That's my go-to. and that's where you need to work on the relationship with each of your clients.
How do you train that?
You train it by making sure everybody knows this business from A to Z. They don't take shortcuts because it's easy. Our fees are big, right? And sometimes people take shortcuts, and you really have to train them, do the things the right way. We have a process. It's a 24-step ASG process. And you probably have the same steps in your process, whether it's contingency or engage, it doesn't matter. It's the same process. And we're saying to our team, do the complete process. Don't take shortcuts. Make sure you dot the I's and cross the T's so that at the end of the day, we've got the best shot at a great placement. You can never guarantee it, but you give yourself the best chance to do it right. But do the process the right way where the client's going to say, "What that firm they did a great job." And hopefully you have more than one candidate. Their decision is really difficult, that they have a tough choice to make and they make the right choice, but that you gave them options. And that's when they really appreciate what we do.
You have so much tenure in your office.
We do.
The thing that I see a lot of people struggle with, and I'm one of those, is with tenure comes assuming and knowing too much. And I'm at the AE level here, because success breeds success to a point till you already know the answers and you don't have to ask the questions. How do you keep your folks 20, 25 years in the business still doing the ABCs? How do you keep that momentum going with your people?
Oh, that's hard. We have a lot of team meetings. We still meet one-on-one with everybody every Monday or Tuesday to review their week and their plan. Nobody fights it. They think it's good for them. It's their time to spend a few minutes with either me or JT or whoever their senior manager is. But I think that reinforces and gives them a sounding board. But you do have to keep reminding people to keep doing the right things, because sometimes it does. People they'll tend to maybe take a shortcut because they've been doing it so long, right? So it's our job once in a while to reinforce that, or, jump in when we need to jump in, which isn't too often because we do have such tenure and experience. But that's good.
Do you still role play in your office?
We do a little bit. We don't have a lot of meetings, Vince. We have one meeting on Wednesday. Well, we have some team meetings, but as an office, since we have such a big office, we just do one meeting, and we do some deal role playing. Then we'll always break down every placement. Maybe we ring the bell 3 times a week. We'll make sure in our meeting to say, okay, Vince, you closed such and such a deal. Walk me through it. How'd you get the job order? How'd you get the candidate? A little autopsy of the deals, because we feel people they learn a lot by hearing what happened. How'd you source the candidate? Where did the job order come from? Did you go to a conference and meet that person years ago? Is it a deep relationship, or, hey, do you have a marketing campaign and you got a new job order? Those are interesting things for people to hear every day.
Do you ever role play or have the conversations about the deals that fell off or went away? Or
always? That's as important as the ones that do go together. So we call them our slices of life. So the deals that didn't go, we'll want to talk about what happened. Was it the candidate? Did the dollars just not come together? Did something happen with the candidate along the way that you didn't anticipate? But yeah, I believe that, or did the person take a counteroffer? Yeah, we've all said that we learned more from the deals that blew up than the ones that went together.
So, Mark, yourself, what I can tell just by your passion how engaged you are in the business, even today. I understand you're not working a desk as much, but having 20 plus people in your office, that's a full-time job. I mean, keeping track,
helping. It's not a full-time job anymore, Vince. I have to admit my job is reduced a little bit because I've got some great team leaders, and that's taken some of the burden off. Whereas 10 years ago, it was beyond a full-time job. working the desk and running the practice, it was a lot of hours at time. But now it's I don't want to use the word cruise control, but when you have veterans and you have great team leaders, that reduces it a little bit. That helps a lot.
It really does. What do you personally do to unwind?
I've coached basketball for 42 years, but my team would tell you in the summer, when I'm not here, I'm at the golf course. Now, I would admit this, and they would all know this, that my country club's been a pretty good source of business. One, I do a lot of entertaining. So we do bring a lot of our clients there. And if you can get your client on a golf course for 4 hours, you've wrapped up a client.
Wow.
I mean, it's a great way to build a relationship. So, I mean, for example, last summer, I'm with some other vendors that are in our industry, but not in our business. And we team up and we had 30 CEOs at my course for the day.
Oh my gosh.
So that's kind of my role, Vince. It's to solidify a lot of the relationships. So I try to do that. Is it fun for me because I'm out golfing? Yes. But if you can get a client out, for any type of special event, have that kind of time with them, drinks and cocktails and lunch, and then 4 rounds, a round of golf. It's been outstanding for our team.
Your energy is just over the top. I love that. I really do. When you look at ASG 5 to 10 years out, what's your vision?
Our vision is to keep growing like we're doing. I may not be here in 5 to 10 years. I may be down to a really light schedule, but my team is positioned to keep taking over more responsibility. But our goal is, in fact, we just had our strategy meeting last week with our senior members, and it's to again add another 2-3 people very strategically to different practices, and that's really the goal. And really, that's my main mission, is to help find the talent to keep growing the business and get them acclimated into who we are.
I remember some time ago, I can't remember when exactly, you talked about planning for the next year starting in November. And so now you're probably well on your way to being planned as an office for 2024.
Yeah. In fact, that was just last week. We usually try to do it the last week in November. It got pushed back because of scheduling till last week, but it's all the senior members, and we go off site and talk a lot about what went right in 23. We had a list of 5 or 6 corporate goals. Did we hit them? If we didn't hit them, why? If we didn't, why not? And then we kind of set the same for 24. We, as a group, we said, okay, what's our strategic mission and goals, and what do we want to do as an office? Everybody has their individual goals and team goals, but this is really office wide. I'm blessed that we have a team that they're not afraid to speak up of things they think we can do better, or, hey, why don't we do this? What marketing activities can we pick up? We've got a great marketing staff, and how can they help us get there? But yeah, it's very valuable to set your vision and your mission ahead of time. So when we go in 1st of January, we know where we want to go. And then we have a kickoff meeting the second week of January, where we get everybody together and we say, this is our corporate goals for next year. Yes, you're going to all meet. Everybody's in the process right now of doing their business plan, which we'll review individually with each of them. But then the second week of January, we'll talk ASG as a total of here's how last year went. Here's our, the ratios we hit. Here's what we did. And here's how many job orders, send outs, and average billings, et cetera. But here's what we want to do for next year.
Gosh.
So everybody's kind of on the same page.
How do you help people that their vision may be a little bit far-fetched?
Well, so we do a business plan with them every year. Actually, we use the one corporate has now. We used to have our own. So we've taken the one that Hannah sent us in corporate, which is the 2024 business. We customize it slightly, but 90% of it's the same as theirs, And it's really just to talk out, again, what did somebody do this year? what are their key clients, what were their hits, what were their misses, and then said, okay, where are you going next year? What are your targets? And where do you want to be? And obviously set goals and objectives for next year. What we did a better job this year, and I give JT credit for this because it was his ideas, is in years past, people would do that business plan and they'd stick it in the drawer and they never look at it again. So this year, we started for the first time of having quarterly reviews with everybody to say, and they were short. It says, hey, pull that business plan. You did a lot of work on it going into the year. Where are you in that? And it's just not all billings. We know that. I mean, sometimes billings don't always coincide with the amount of work you had. Some deals don't flow together. You think they were going to, and vice versa. But it's how'd you do on that target list you're going after? How you're going to attack that? Okay, what are you going to do different in the next quarter, et cetera? It was good.
That's wonderful. Mark, I am so blessed that you took the time out of your busy schedule to spend some time on here. Do you have any questions for me?
No. Again, if anybody would ever want to reach out because they need help or they're struggling, I'm happy for anybody to reach out. I mean, you said it well when you started, how fortunate we were to start under Alan and G-Dub and so many other people we have high respect for in the industry. We just lost one of the people that I have the deep respect for in Stacy, Stacy Stevens, who we took over her office, as you might have heard. But what a loss for us, because she was a pillar in the MRI family. So you learn off of different people, and I feel blessed that I've been a part of this for so many years. So I say to anybody, hey, they have an issue, they need a sounding board, just call me, write me, email. I'm available. I'm more available now than I ever used to be. So I'm happy to help anybody that might be struggling with something. This is not an easy business. Now, it seems easier now because we're so established, but it's not always that way. And there's always a lot of challenges.
It's very true. It's a simple business.
With people, yeah, or clients, or just getting certain things. And sometimes people just need a sounding board or reinforcement. So no, I'm free to, anybody wants to reach out, they can call me, email me, whatever. I'm happy to spend time with them.
Well, I thank you for taking the time here.